laptop mic. Can you guys hear me now? Okay. So laptop mic is not working. You know what? I'm just going to exit StreamYard and come right back in. See if that fixes it. Is there anything now with sound? Still no sound. I am not sure what's going on. That's not working. Can you hear me now? Finally. Okay. It only took 5 minutes. Go figure. All right. Better late than never. Okay. Glad you guys can finally hear me. Yeah, that's what happens when you haven't live streamed in a month. So, Kevin Samuel's autopsy was released, 3 days ago? So why am I just getting to this? Well, I haven't live streamed in quite a while, over a month, as you can see with all my struggle streaming. Now, I didn't know about the autopsy actual until yesterday. A friend told me about it. And by the time I finished everything I wanted doing, it was probably like 10 o'clock. And I know the value of a good night's sleep. So I wasn't going to stay up till like midnight trying to get a video together or anything like that, write a script, blah, blah, blah. So, a person who has health is wealthy, though they may not know it, so to speak. So let's get anyway to the autopsy. So it says hypertension, high blood pressure, right, is the cause of death. Died of natural causes. But that's not the real cause of death. I'm going to come back to that. So first of all, what is high blood pressure? That's a common disease that develops when the blood flows through your arteries that are higher than normal pressures, basically. High blood pressure, right? And it often has no symptoms, which is why it's called the silent killer, particularly dangerous. And so what does high blood pressure do to you? It can cause heart disease, stroke, and obviously even death, right? Now let's get back to the real cause of that I was saying. Think of it this way. Let's say somebody came and told you somebody you knew had died in a car crash, right? Was it a car crash that caused their death? That's not the real cause of death, in my opinion. What you want to figure out is, were the roads wet? Was the person speeding? Did another car hit them? Were they driving recklessly? What are the factors that created the car crash? That's the key thing to look at here. So now we'll get to the meat and potatoes of things, right? Because you don't just have high blood pressure out of nowhere. You don't just have a heart attack out of the blue, so to speak. The primary cause of high blood pressure are what they call lifestyle factors, right? Which is basically how you live your life. Whether you're eating too much sodium, and there's so many packaged food items or drinks that have a ton of sodium, Packaged things either usually have salt or sugar for the flavor. I mean, that's why we cook with salt, right? Not being active, says sitting a lot, not walking, not exercising regularly, not sleeping 7 to 9 hours per night, or sleeping to 7 hours per night, but the quality is not there. For example, let's say you go to bed at 2 a.m., right? And you wake up at 10. Mathematically, that's the same as going to bed at 10 p.m. and waking up at 6 a.m., but the quality is not the same. It's drastically different. We're going to come back to sleep later on, right? Now, we also have some non-lifestyle factors. So, for example, if you have high blood pressure and it's uncontrolled, most likely doctor will put you on some blood pressure medication. Now, some people don't take blood pressure medication because they have crappy side effects, right? Like messing with, a man's erection. Who wants that? Nobody wants that. Not the guy, not whoever the guy is with, right? So we're going to come back to side effects of meds later on as well. Probably make a note here in my notepad on that. So what are the solutions to all of this, right? Pretty much just do the opposite of what I just said people shouldn't be doing, So eat healthy food, less salt, exercise more, move more. If you're on your meds, actually take your medication, plus get more potassium. A lot of people don't know it's not just about the too much salt, but it's also not enough potassium in the diet. That's one of the reasons I eat spinach every day, to get a lot of potassium. The American Heart Association recommends you get 4,700 milligrams per day. And if you've ever tracked your food, or if you start to do that now, you'll notice most likely you're nowhere close to that number. Nowhere close to that number. Most people are not getting enough potassium, right? Because the more potassium you eat, the more sodium you lose through urine. And it also helps to ease the tension in the blood vessel walls, which helps further lower blood pressure. And we do know Kevin Samuels was on blood pressure medication. That's why I bring it up, right? So clearly there were signs of a problem, which is why his doctor put him on blood pressure medications, right? But the thing is, you can't have uncontrolled blood pressure and not take your meds, which would be why he'd be taking said meds. Of course, as I said earlier, there are side effects to these things. If it was all that simple, then people could eat whatever they want, not work out, do whatever the hell they want, and just take a pill. But there's always a price to pay for things of that nature, right? I mentioned I could come back to the sleep. Sleep is pretty critical. There's some studies that show, if you're sleeping less than 5 hours a night, it increases the risk of high blood pressure by 350 to 500% compared to those who slept longer than 6 hours per night. Though that's crazy if you think about it. Increase the risk of high blood pressure by 350 to 500%. That is crazy. And uncontrolled blood pressure is the leading cause of heart disease for everybody, right? And Black people, and I'm a Black person, has, we have the largest rate of high BP compared to other groups. So it's a problem for everybody, but it's a particularly bigger problem, let's say, for the Black community. So it's very unfortunate that this can happen to somebody who's obviously very wealthy, very successful, but then stress is another thing. He was in a high stress situation, let's say, making very good money, but not sleeping enough. A lot of people out there are not liking him. So, it's a recipe for disaster, so to speak, right? So those are kind of the main things. That's why I said the real reason most people just go, high blood pressure, that's it. And they stop there. Heart attack. But you really have to dive deeper into the root cause. That's what you have to look at. You have to really dig deeper, because that's not the true reason, the true cause, in my opinion, right? So let's see if any of you guys have any comments on that. So yes, Sek, reordering the sleep schedule. I would say yes, that would be an important thing to do. Definitely an important thing to do. Sleep is just so critical. If you think back, there's this old saying, if you cheat on sleep, her twin sister death will avenge her. So it's pretty critical, right? Not just the quantity of sleep, but the quality of sleep as well. So don't be afraid to take a nap. Naps can also be pretty helpful as well. And some people are just caffeinating themselves through the day because of the lack of sleep. But caffeine, it gives the illusion that you have energy. It's not, again, there's always a price to be paid for things of this nature. If you're not sleeping and you're exhausted and taking caffeine to get through the day, eventually you're going to have to pay a price for this. You can't get something for nothing, let's say. I'm going to drop the link in case anybody wants to call in and discuss this. Or if everybody has any questions in the chat. Not really. So the key thing here, like I said, is this stuff is preventable. It's mostly preventable. It's usually lifestyle based, and anybody can change their lifestyle. We can all start sleeping more, be more active, eating better, etc. Right? It's not quite as expensive as you might think to live healthy. Plus, you'll save money in the long run on healthcare costs, and of course, if you're dead, you can't use any money anyway, right? I remember one of the stories I'd heard. Somebody had said when he had passed away, he was going to go to Europe later in the year, but you can't do that, right? So sometimes it's just not worth it making a lot of money but not getting enough sleep, not taking good enough care of yourself, basically. It's just kind of not really worth it, so to speak. And while genetics does play a part, it's not the major part. I know people like to think, runs in my family, etc. But perhaps everybody in your family has been not living the way they should be living, right? So hopefully things like this, when they happen to somebody who's famous, can help other people, to learn from these mistakes, essentially. It's pretty much what I would say with that. You definitely do want to learn from the mistakes, let's say. You do want to learn from the mistakes. Again, not the most breaking news type video or live stream, I should say. But I figured I'd get this information out there. Hopefully it can help some people to look beyond the surface level, to dive a little deeper. All right, so if nobody has any questions or comments, or nobody's calling in, it's Friday night. I'm going to call it wrap things up. So again, started back the live streams. We can get back into this more frequently again. Thanks everybody for showing up. So later's my massive. Have a good night. Peace.